He's Tony. I'm Mike. This is week 14 of the Action Bowl.
Week 14, the final four, round 2 of the playoffs. We're going to see Mel Gibson going up against Jean-Claude Van Damme. Mike is going to be drawing for Mel Gibson. I will be drawing for the muscles from Brussels himself, Jean-Claude. Let's get this party started.
And for Mr. Gibson, we have... Wait, no?
Attack? No, that is Mel Gibson. Yes, it is. Attack Force Z.
I have no idea what the f this is.
This is very early in his career.
Well, then, shit, Van Damme may have a sporting chance then. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what the hell to expect from it. So this will be interesting. Very interesting.
If I'm not mistaken, it's a military action film. So we'll find out.
And then for Mr. Van Damme,
for Van Damme, for the muscles from Brussels, from the man who rides Volvos doing the splits. We have Time Cop.
Interesting. So I know you're a big fan of Time Cop.
I am.
I haven't seen it in probably about 15, maybe 20 years, so I don't know how well this one's going to land for me.
I'm going to say that I think this is actually one of Van Damme's most accomplished films. I actually think that this is one of those rare films that he really was the only person that could have played this role. And I know that we've talked about a couple of the other movies that he's done where it felt like it was a Jackie Chan script and they threw Jean-Claude Van Damme in it. This is most definitely all him. And I'm going to just say this right now. Attack Force Z better impress, because Time Cop, it really is probably my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme film. So I'm looking forward to actually watching this one again, and I can't wait to see how the scoring on this one's going to go.
I have no idea who's going to win what here, but we'll find out shortly when we talk about the scoring.
So stay tuned for our commentary and our scores coming up next. So week 14 has Mel Gibson squaring off against Jean-Claude Van Damme. Who do you want to talk about first?
Mr. Gibson.
All right, let's talk about Mel. Mel drew Attack Force Z, a film that I had never actually heard of.
Me either, I didn't know it existed.
But we did manage to hunt it down, and we did watch it, and...
Well, let me start with saying that it definitely was not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting a World War II drama from Mr. Gibson. But I'll tell you what, I actually enjoyed the story. Mm-hmm. Is it a fun movie? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. Is it an engaging movie? Yes, it is very engaging. Yeah. It's a story I'd never heard of. As a matter of fact, I didn't really even know that Australia was even all that much involved in World War II, so I don't know how much of the stuff is factual. I'm looking at you, Mr. Assistant.
I don't know how factual that was, but Australia played a very massive role in the Pacific Theater. Oh. They were like the second most important behind the U.S. in the Pacific.
Oh, well there you have it. So
they're the reason we got the Philippines back, because we used them as a jumping off point, and they helped in the invasion.
Okay. So now knowing that, so I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, it's not fun, but it's very engaging. It is very brutal at times. Like especially like the first 5 minutes, one of their guys gets capped. Like, literally gets his kneecap. Yeah. They shoot his fucking ass because it's a fucking liability.
Oh, no worries. They're me, mate. Can handle them with both hands tied behind me.
Yeah. I'm like, God damn, some cold-blooded motherfuckers. I knew right then and there this is going to be a dark movie. And it is dark. And it's dark all the way to the very end. Yeah. Because while they're successful and they're kind of successful in the mission.
Kind of successful, yeah.
Yeah, the guy they're trying to get out didn't make it, so it's kind of all for nothing.
Yes.
So, I mean, it really speaks to the brutality and sometimes futileness of war.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like you go through all that. First, if you have the guy that got kneecapped, and then they go and they run into a farmer, and when they run into the farmer, they ask him about the plane that went down, and he tells them, and now that he's seen them, they can't let him live.
阿公公，谢谢你。喂。
Yeah.
And then then you have the Japanese that are basically brutalizing the village that they have invaded at that point, trying to keep everything under control and trying to find the American whose plane has crashed. It has some hammy moments. It has some really heavy-handed, like melodramatic moments.
They are madmen. They have done terrible things to my soldiers.
I'm sorry.
Where are they?
I know nothing of this, Excellency.
Here!
Well, sure. I mean, it's a World War II war movie.
Sure. But at the end of it, when you have like the futility of war, when they show that like almost everybody in the village has been gunned down by one side or the other, and then all the Japanese soldiers that are dead, and then all the Australians, except for Mel Gibson's character, are dead, and then the guy that they were sent there to extract is dead as well. Yeah, so I do know that from a factual standpoint, I know that Task Force Z was real. I do know that they actually did a lot of these covert missions, and I think like they're celebrated in Australia as heroes. But I don't think that it had ever been put out there that, sometimes they failed, and you don't hear about the failures. You always hear about the victories of war and how heroic they were. Well, this is a movie that's basically about the fact that these men are just as heroic even though they failed, because they really did put it all out there. Now, the other thing I thought was interesting about this is that Mel Gibson was backed up by a very young Sam Neill.
48 hours, not much of a wait, is it?
Right. 48 hours is no time at all.
Who went on to be
I thought I recognized who that guy was.
Jurassic Park all day long, baby. So
he's a cold-blooded motherfucker, because he's the guy that caps the guy that got capped.
Yes. He's the sergeant. He's the squad sergeant on this one. But yeah, no, it's not that there's no bad performances.
No, not at all.
The script could have used a bit more polish.
I don't think the script was really all that bad, because I'm assuming this thing was probably made on a nothing budget.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
And the director himself, like I tried to look up some credits. I never heard any of these things that he's done. He only did like a handful of things. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But for what it is, I liked it.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. But I will say this. Here's the one area where this film kind of really missed the mark for me, and just this one area is the soundtrack. Because the soundtrack sounded like they hired the best high school marching band that they could find. And it has like really inappropriate music cues where like something very heavy is happening and they're playing this super dramatic music about how patriotic it is. And it's almost like Bridge Over the River Kwai when they're whistling right after one of the soldiers gets capped. It's weird. The musical cues in this film are very odd. It like really throws you off. It almost would have been better if somebody takes this movie and rescores it. It will improve it vastly, because like I said, some of those musical cues really miss the mark.
That didn't bother me near as much as like the only movie where music really affected me was Chow Yun-fat and what was it?
A Better Tomorrow.
A Better Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because that music was so heavy-handed and hammy. That music sucked. I mean, sure, while maybe the cues were wrong or inappropriate, it didn't take me out of the movie.
Yeah. Well, no, I will give you that. It didn't take me out. It was just, to me, it was a bit of a distraction. It was just kind of like, that's not quite right. But, and also you could tell it was not, like I said, it was not like recorded on the best equipment or anything like that. But All that being said, this is the Action Bowl, so let's get down to the action. I want to hear your scores.
Okay. Plot, I gave it a 7. Because I never heard of any of this stuff before. So this is all like new to me, historic-wise and stuff like that. And I'm sure why you've seen movies like this before, but I've never seen it from a Japanese, Australian context. So I gave it a 7. Style, while it's not the best shot film in the world, is competently done.
Yeah.
A little bit better than some of the others that we've watched here recently, so I gave it a 6. Fun, again, it's not fun, but it's engaging, so I gave it a 5.
So your total score is?
18.
18. All right. So a little bit different take on this, but not too far off. For the plot, I gave it a 5. And I gave it a 5 because it is from a different perspective. But this is obviously not a film that was made for an American audience. This was made for an Australian audience. So I took that into account. It is a perfectly, like, it is exactly what you would expect a war movie to be. And nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't go too deep into the characters, so it didn't, bump up on that one.
But the only one that really did, surprisingly, was the hired mercenary, the hired gun, the merc, Vierik? Viertik? What his name is?
Something like that.
The guy that falls in love with the Chinese lady.
Yeah. Well, he was the American that crashed. He was the one that was actually there trying to get the Japanese diplomat to the peace talks on that one. So
yeah, but he came off the sub with the rest of the motherfuckers.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he did.
Well, there was the one. Okay, there was the.
They all landed at the same time. He's a hired merc.
Well, there was the one, the American that was like hiding with the Japanese.
That's different guy altogether.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Then I was wrong about who you're talking about. But
that's okay.
But yeah, he was the only character that they actually kind of gave anything to, and then they give him like this cheesy romantic subplot. So again, plot, I gave it a 5. For the style, I gave it a 4. And I gave it a 4 because, it is done on a budget. And they did everything they could with what they had. So I'm not faulting the film. It's most definitely a watchable film. But again, the music, I found it really kind of distracting. And it really kind of snapped me out of a couple of it. And for the fun, I gave it a 3. There are far better war films out there. This is not a bad film. But I can't say that I would recommend this. And if I was having a conversation about war movies, this probably would never be brought up unless I was to say, oh yeah, there was that one that Mel Gibson did way back in the day called Attack Force C, and that's about it. So for me, my score on this one was a 12. Okay. It's not bad. It's not great. It just falls like right in that midline. So coming up next, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Stay tuned. Week 4 indeed rounds out with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Jean-Claude Drew Time Cop. I dug this movie. Unapologetically, I'm going to tell you that this is one of those weird movies that it's set in the distant future of 2004. It was made in 1994, but the thing that I find kind of striking about this is how right it got a lot of things.
I can only get over how 90s this fucking movie is.
Well, it is a 90s film.
Yeah, but it's like unapologetically 90s.
Read it. Wolverine?
Like, who's the bad guy? Oh, it's the guy with the fucking trench coat and the fucking mullet, like every other movie in the 90s.
Well, actually, Ron Silver was the bad guy. He was a senator, so he wasn't. He was the head. He was the big henchman. He was not the big bad. Big bad was Ron Silver, but it was Ron Silver in the past and the future.
If I were you, I wouldn't cash that check. It's going to cost you more than you'll ever know.
Oh, jeez. No, I was generous in my scoring on this one. I did not really enjoy this movie all that much.
Really?
Yeah, and the whole time travel thing, it's whatever. The mechanism, okay, so you go through the portal in this rocket-propelled sled, but yet you don't come out the other end of the sled. You come out in just your body.
Yeah.
But yet when you walk back through the thing, you come back in a sled. So where the f does the sled go through all this? How are you getting out of the sled and going to the things? The mechanics of this thing are f***ing bullshit.
It's
This movie. The mechanics of this f***ing thing is f***ing stupid.
I will say this. The mechanics, you're right. The sled part always kind of bothered me, and yeah, the fact that the little rocket sled disappears when they are actually in the time that they're visiting. I never got that. I never did. But the mechanics of time travel, as far as when someone goes back and what they're trying to do. So we have like the guy that goes back and robs the Confederate gold at the very beginning of the film.
I'm going to ask you one more time. Would you please give me the gold?
And then they, discover that gold has now appeared in the Middle East and is being spent, and it's actually been time-stamped. I dug that part. The other part I dug was the guy that went back right after the Wall Street crash on Black Friday in 1929, and he was looking to buy all the stocks that for companies that survived Black Friday.
That part is interesting enough, and all that's fine. But you think if you're the senator and you want to make millions of dollars, and you sent somebody that far back into time to manipulate the stock market and do other things, you'd be a fucking billionaire. The last thing on your mind then would be becoming a fucking president. I mean, I guess you could do that, but you certainly won't run out of fucking money in your campaign. Are you fucking kidding me?
So,
the plot of this thing is fucking bullshit, along with the fucking time travel mechanics. And here's the other thing that sucks about this fucking movie is Jean-Claude Van Damme. You do not do serious well. Not this level of serious. You do not take yourself this seriously in this style of fucking movie. It just doesn't fucking work. This came off like a really like I would enjoy Demolition Man better than this.
Yeah?
Movie. Oh yeah.
So I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit more than you. This is actually based on a comic book that was published by Dark Horse Comics. I don't know if you were aware of that one.
No.
And it's also directed by Peter Hyams, and Peter Hyams also directed 2010, which was the sequel to 2001.
Much better than this movie.
So it works for me. I enjoyed it quite well. I know that we're going to disagree pretty heavily on this one, I think.
I'm going to restrain myself from strangling you because I can imagine what these scores are going to be because they're going to be unrealistic. If these come close to Predator, there's something wrong.
No. I will tell you right now, they don't come close to Predator, but they do fit in that I really enjoyed it for what it was.
If they come within 3 points of Predator, there's some bullshit.
So, let's get down to it. Let me know what your score is here.
And I feel I'm being generous on this stuff. Plot's a 5. Style, 5. Fun,
really?
5.
Really?
And I feel I'm being generous on the fun portion of it. Nothing here is any better than any other action movie that came out in that same era. Nothing. What in this movie is better than, like I said, Demolition Man? Or
Demolition Man's Demolition. I've always not cared for Demolition Man, and it's a Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes vehicle.
See, that's more fun and campy than this. Like this,
but they weren't going for fun or camp. Peter Hyams does serious science fiction. So,
you got the wrong actor for that shit, though.
I'm just gonna tell you right now that for the plot, I gave it a 9. I enjoy this film. I enjoy the time travel aspects of it. I actually think that this is one of Jean-Claude Van Damme's best films.
Really?
No,
not even close. Not even close.
Well, then we're definitely going to disagree on the rest of this. For the style, I gave it an 8. And the reason for that is because, again, when you look at the science fiction of it, they got so much of it right. They got the flat screen TVs right. They got the tasers being used for weaponry right.
Tasers are already being used long before that. Tasers have been used since the fucking 70s. That's nothing new.
Well, there was one thing that I really strikes me about this one. There is a scene in the film where Jean-Claude Van Damme sits down and he's watching a video of his wife, who is actually played by Ferris Bueller's girlfriend. And he is watching, it was an interaction between two of them, an intimate one, and he's actually saying his lines and then listening to her.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Want some help?
Want some help?
Yeah, you can buy the birdseed.
And it struck me that is exactly the same scene that Steven Spielberg did in Minority Report.
Your knees up like that. Good. Like that. Like that. Like that.
Hi, like that. See, you're a natural runner.
Gotta keep running.
With Tom Cruise. So I think this movie has a shit ton of potential. It is actually my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme film. And I actually bought this on Blu-ray after rewatching this. That's how much I enjoyed it. So,
Well, good for the fun.
Well, for the fun, I gave it an 8. I enjoyed this film, and I know that I didn't know how you were going to land on this one, but for me it was a ton of fun. So for me, I gave it a 25.
So you scored this higher than Predator.
No, I didn't. Predator
It's
actually.
within 3 points.
It's 3 points, 2 or 3 points lower. Predator, I gave near perfect score to. So, anyway, stay tuned. We'll recap our scores and coming up next. I did not know how I was going to score Gibson, but at the end of the day, for Attack Force C, you scored it an 18. I scored it a 12, so that gives it an average score of 15. And then for Time Cop, you scored it a 15. I scored it a 25, so that actually brings it to an average score of 20. I'm not going to throw a zinger on this one out of respect to Mike and his opinion of this, but I really did hope that you would enjoy this more than you did.
This is 2 times Van Damme has stole a victory. Do you realize this?
I wouldn't say that the rock, paper, scissors was...
No, stole.
I'm a fan. I'm unashamed.
And here's the funny thing is, like, I went into this probably a bigger Van Damme fan than you are.
Probably, yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm walking out of this like it's just hating the man.
Well, really?
No, yeah.
Well, I tell you what. Wait.
No.
I'm going to offer you an olive branch on this one.
The scores are the scores.
The scores are the scores. And I got to be honest with you, I tried to be as fair as possible when I scored this. And I got done with Time Cop, and I was actually genuinely engaged and genuinely entertained. And I watched it second to last just because, I had seen the film before, but it had been a long time since I'd seen it. So I had that well, is this going to hold up or isn't it? And I got done with it. And like I said, I immediately got on Amazon and bought the Blu-ray.
All I saw was 90s bullshit trash. So here we are. Poor Mel Gibson. Sorry, buddy, but
I just want to say this right now, and here's
you're dragging this out when it doesn't need to be
not
drug
dragging
out.
it out. I'm kind of disappointed too. I wish that Attack Force C had been better because what's left in the bowl is the Road Warrior.
Yep.
So,
and there you have it. That's all you need to know, folks. Gibson, sorry, buddy. Actual shame, never spoke of again.
So join us next week for the big event. Jean-Claude Van Damme is going to be facing off against Arnold Schwarzenegger. We will catch you then.